This title is narrated with virtual voice, computer-generated narration for audiobooks. Crossroads of Redemption by Danielle M. Haas. 1. The sun crawled above the peaks of the Smoky Mountains, its warm beams a welcome sight as Mia Tooley picked her way through the too-high grass. Dew still clung to the vibrant green blades, the moisture wicking against the thin material of her black leggings. But she didn't mind. Rain had poured down on Pine Valley, Tennessee for the past 5 days. But today's promise of clear skies had her yearning to stretch her legs along the wooded paths and inhale the fresh, springtime air. Had her yearning to be far away from the duplex she rented, not realizing she'd share a wall with the brooding pain in her backside she was forced to work with at Crossroads Mountain Retreat, a rehabilitation center tucked away in the mountains for injured law enforcement officers and veterans. Chet Black was unlike any man she'd ever met, and thank God for that. If his size wasn't intimidating enough, add in the surly attitude and constant frown buried beneath his thick beard, and he was downright terrifying. But she wouldn't let him scare her off. Not when she desperately needed a new beginning away from the prying eyes of her hometown in the next county over. No, Pine Valley offered her everything she needed to heal, to grow from the shocking betrayal that had cut her at her knees, leaving her with nothing. And if she had to make nice with the chef at the retreat while she climbed back up on her own 2 feet, so be it. She hadn't moved here to make friends. She moved here to lick her wounds and come out of her living nightmare a better person. If she could do that by enjoying the amazing view of the mountains from the tiny porch of her new apartment, even better. She'd just continue to ignore the man who lived and worked beside her. Letting another man get her down wouldn't happen again in this lifetime. Chet Black would just have to put up with her until it was time to move on to bigger and better things. The sound of squeaking hinges echoed around her. Feeling the heat of Chet's gaze on her back, she rolled her eyes. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of turning with a good morning wave, not like he'd appreciate the gesture anyway. If she had it her way, she'd gladly give him a different gesture with her right hand, but that wouldn't be nice. And damn it all to hell, the stupid manners her mama had ingrained in her since birth weren't something she could just forget. Even though being too nice, and a little bit naive, was what had landed her in her current predicament. Gritting her teeth, she pushed all thoughts of her crumbling life and ungrateful ex, and jerk neighbor from her mind, and hopped over a fallen log to get on a trail that led through the woods. She'd arrived in Pine Valley in the winter, so she hadn't explored many paths that surrounded the cute cabin-turned-duplex she'd found tucked deep within the forest. Then came the rain. So much rain. But now the sun was out, and she was on a mission to discover her new home. Mud caked onto the bottom of her boots, making her steps more difficult than normal. A backpack sat heavy on her shoulders. She didn't plan to be gone long, but being prepared was another one of those lessons ingrained in her. Better to not be caught unaware and all that. A lesson that struck a little close to home of late, one she'd failed to remember. Mia might have let love blind her and leave her unprepared for her new future, but that wouldn't be the case for today's hike. A quick half-mile walk to a picture-perfect spot to watch the sun finish its climb above the mountains before heading to the retreat to start her day's work. Hopefully she'd find enough zen in her time with nature to keep her level-headed for a day stuck in the kitchen with Chet. The wide trail narrowed, and the incline steepened. A deep ravine stretched along the valley floor to her side. Dead foliage rustled at her feet. Mia grunted as she watched her footing on the slick terrain. Sweat dotted her hairline, and she wiped it off with the back of her wrist, pushing aside her pesky black curls that refused to stay secured in her stubby ponytail. A fat
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.